Okay, so we'd like to welcome Professor Victor Osamor. He's going to be taking the first session. He's a professor of bioinformatics, computer science. Okay, so Professor Victor Osamor for his session.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm quite glad to be here, and I want to use this opportunity to thank the leadership for deeming it fit to allow me to be here. Professor Ezekiel Adebi and Professor Adetiba especially, who are the hosts, the PIs of FEDGEN. Okay, what I have to present is an overview of HPC in research. Okay, so what I have here is, can I get the, okay, it's not ready yet, but can I use the keyboard? Can you go? Yeah. Okay, so we need to actually know what HPC is, and we're looking at it from a point of view of having computers that are usually large, very expensive, and is able to handle mass high computational activities, okay, at a very fast rate. Okay, that is it. But I want to let you know that that is just not what HPC is all about. All efforts that you make in order to make a normal PC to be faster is also an act of high performance computing. And that is why we're not looking at the hardware devices alone or the hardware components, but we're also looking at the software component. So as the hardware component is evolving, so also the software component is also evolving. So if you are able to have an arrangement such that you are able to reduce the delay, then you are on it in having a high performance computing achieved. So I must let you to know that. So, but here we are saying that concept that is used to describe supercomputers and all parallel strategies to carry out difficult calculation, data analysis activities. Okay, so every parallel activities that we take care of is a way of ensuring that we achieve supercomputing. So CRE-1 is one of the first supercomputers, and this computer came out 1976, and it could perform 240 million calculations per second. And you find out that it is not easy to acquire computers of this magnitude, and they have large applications, and then we're going to talk about the applications later. But this is just to tell you at least what supercomputers look like. In this study, we decided to say, okay, fine, let's look at how these computers look like, and then the infrastructures used to build these computers. But in course of doing that, we discovered that there are notable hardware companies that played a very, very huge role in ensuring that these computers evolve from time. Okay, so you have Hewlett-Packard Enterprise also playing a role. Lenovo is also there, and other hardware manufacturers. Okay, but you find out that for you to have improvement on all this, you have a way of innovating the data storage such that you are able to have a very good analytics performed by such systems. And we have organizations like the top500.org. They are responsible for measuring the improvements of different hardware units, and then be able to say, okay, fine, which computer is leading in terms of speed or in terms of performance? Because when you talk about performance, so many factors are involved. Whenever we talk about performance in computing, you might be talking about performance in terms of space, you might be talking about in terms of speed, whichever one you are actually trying to assess. Okay. So, look at how these computers look like in terms of arrangement, and then you like to look at the inside the tower of a normal computer, a normal HPC, with all the internal arrangements. And having said that, we decided to look at a peculiar computer, which is Frontier. Frontier is the fastest currently. In doing this study, I decided to look at the top 500 and then which of the computer is currently fast. And I discovered that Frontier is currently leading, but 2 years back it wasn't there. And you find out that they are competing amongst themselves in order to see who will outplay the other one. Okay? And then they are always ensuring. But you have the performance metrics that they use. Okay? So if you look at it, you have the different performance metrics. You have the FLOP, floating point operations per second. That is the parameter they use to measure this set of computers. So you have the number of flops to the power of 6. That is the megaflops. You have the gigaflops, the teraflops, and then the p-flops to the level of 10 raised to the power of 15. Okay? As well as the e-flops. Okay? But we don't... From the computer. Okay, thank you. We don't want to forget about the von Neumann, because we are coming from the von Neumann arrangement, and that is a stored program approach. It's such a program concept in the sense that you need to have all the data, but you find out that they are not parallels. You have delays amongst the various units, and you need to have some level of parallelism. And that is the improvement that we have. Now, it's interesting for us to look at where is HPC involved in scientific computing this time. Under normal circumstances, we have physical processes. Physical processes could be anything. It could be a metabolism, a normal metabolism. In the body system, you have biological activities going on. It could be the generation of energy. In other words, you now break the food that you have eaten, and then you want to have energy dissipated at the end of it. And it could be a volcanic eruption anyway, as well as part of physical phenomenon of physical processes that you can, use mathematical models to express. But HPC comes in when you start considering the numerical solutions. In other words, you have computations that can be done many times on the same data set. Sometimes that is not the case. You have to, you have different data, but the data is large, and then you have to process all the data. But the concept is that it has to be huge. So we're talking of numerical solution, of also data visualizations and validations. So those are areas where we need them. Okay. Yeah, so we looked at this computer frontier. Like I said, this is the fastest so far, and it's quite interesting as we're looking at it, what makes it special. But amongst all of them, because if you look at the top 500, you have the 10. I have 10 of them that I listed. I was looking at the cores, but I found out that it is not the number of cores that you have that makes the system fast. It's not the number of cores. So it means that there are other arrangements, other parameters responsible. Okay, so it is based on innovation, how you are able to innovate your system that makes it faster. So you'll find out that each of them, they outplay themselves. Okay, so it's quite interesting to have, like this frontier is made based on this EX23 architecture, and then it relies on AMD processors. Some people believe that AMD processors are not as strong as Intel, but but that is not the case, because this one now is leading currently. I'm telling you what is going on now. Okay, so but you can see the number of cores, you can see the efficiency and the interesting thing. So it's what, and it's even predicted that it's going to stay for some time before you are able to knock these computers out. Okay, maybe putting them in the second place. But we want to take the second, yes, Fugaku is second from Riken. Okay, so the centers, there are centers where these computers are found. So if you want to work with such computers, you know where to look out for them. That is also part of the research. Okay, so this is the second. This is supposed to be the first, or used to be the first, but is now been dethroned by Frontier. So they did some things that made it quite interesting. And you have Lumi system, which is number 3 at this point. So you see that that is quite competitive. When Professor Detiba was making his own remark, he was talking about Africa having a fair play in the field of supercomputing. You can see the need now, because you can see the competition going on. And that is exactly, this is regular. It's like the university being interested in being ranked at the, okay, by the times higher. Okay, so each computer will always want to outperform the other one. So you have Frontier, you have Fugaku, you have Lumi, and then Senior in Italy. Okay. So I became interested to pick them, the order. This is the current ranking, and then these are the cores we're talking about. So it's quite interesting to us as researchers that we begin to look at the cores and begin to say, okay, is it the number of cores that is responsible? Otherwise, though the number of cores for this look okay, look higher. Yeah, but I know that when this one was at best, there were other ones. Okay, can we go to the next slide so that we can see the other ones? So for us as researchers, we are interested in others like that and begin to ask ourselves questions. We want to study. We want to know exactly why this order is working. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the 10,000 cores, but he's 7th. is 7. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So with the number of cores, so is it other parameters that are responsible or what? For us as researchers, it's a question for us to perform experiment and begin to think about how we're going to improve either the architecture, the memory, increasing the number of cores and the likes. Okay. Next. Yeah. Okay, so actually this is the 10th. I know that there was a time this one was leading, but it's at the 10th position now. There was a time it was the first one. It's from China. So you can see the countries where they are coming from. United States, China, and so it's quite interesting for us to know. But this is the first 10 in the world today. So we also look at how have we progressed from development in the early days of UNIVAC in terms of the number of flops as recorded in the performance. We find out that it is quite linear, okay, from this point. And you look at the different types of architecture, super, scalar, vector, and then parallel. Okay, so that's exactly what this is also able to show us. Next. Okay, so to us, it means that the architecture is quite of great importance. And anything architecture in computing is of great interest to us because that is where the technology is embedded. So you have different architectures. You have the vector parallel, and then you have SIMD versus MIMD, and then other architectures as well. So one can research into these areas, but we looked at what are the possible research areas. They are quite uncountable, meaning that we can get as more than this. I can't even finish enumerating it, but any place that generates large sets of data is important, okay? Or you want to make a simulation. We know what simulation is all about. We want to predict, okay? You want to tell the future. You want to know the future. Knowing the future is of interest. And that is why anytime we want to know the future, and that is the concept of prediction anyway. But for you to be able to predict, you need large data sets. And that is where supercomputing is also important. Okay, so we are looking at how have we progressed. Okay, in the 1970s we were using more of weather forecasting. We were using it for more of weather forecasting and then aerodynamics research. In the 80s, it seems as if we are looking at probabilistic analysis and radiation modeling. The 90s, what are we using in brute force code breaking as to nuclear simulations. I think these ones are not specific, but it is on the average. What type of work did they do it? Did they use it for mostly? So for this, people have done research, and then you might just mine the literature using some tools, and then you begin to see what are the papers, what are the works that have been done in this area within this period. You can take a 10-year study period and then be able to generate about which work came up the most in literature for the past decade. Okay? You can take it 10 years, and that is how you generate this kind of information on the average. So you have 2010 and till current date molecular dynamics. For us in bioinformatics, we know the importance of molecular dynamics. For example, the concept of protein folding, that is exactly what happens in the body. If a protein has to fold and it didn't fold, there's a serious problem. If it folds when it's not supposed to fold, it's a very serious matter. So studying it also requires a lot of computational resources. And that is exactly what supercomputing can help us to do. Okay? We are also used to the concept of AI, where you have a lot of innovations. You are trying to simulate what happens in the brain and the likes, and then you know the number of neurons that are responsible, that you have to have embedded, and they are being controlled just in that formation. Okay, so you have a lot to think about in terms of research in these areas. And for the life science, also, I've talked about simulations, cell simulations for biological systems. Is quite important. But these ones, we're looking at what is happening in writing, because it's also known that I brought the other information that one supercomputer that is there. So these people have advanced to this level that we begin to look at them and begin to see, okay, what have they done in terms of research with these computers? At least it is not that they go into all this area, but I mean, for the essence of CApIC-ACE, I was more or less, it was deliberate anyway, because you have other areas like weather forecast, you have other areas like robotics and the likes, but I focused more on this. You can have a situation where you want to work on ligands, you want to work on molecular simulations, protein complexes, trying to understudy them, trying to understudy their dynamics, okay? Which is exactly what they are doing in writing, okay? Okay, the same thing, that's writing for you, a lot of activities going on, and exactly, even blood circulation. So blood circulation is an interesting thing to study because we're talking of a dynamic system. That is why if you need to study a dynamic system, or you need to study activity of this in the cell, you need to be able to handle, to use supercomputers to ensure that these experiments are done. So you have the genome, you have the gene therapy, all the proteins, you have the chemical processes, and sometimes these are for organs. Why is this one necessary? Because this has to pump blood to so many vessels in the body. And if you calculate the distance from the heart through to all the vessels, you find out that it's a great distance. And if, for example, you are not able to pump blood to some organs, death occurs immediately. So we need to understudy what is going on in our vascular system completely. I think we have another diagram that's in the next one. Yeah, that tends to also capture that. But Okay, I think this is the diagram. Okay, this one says in 1 minute, the heart pumps entire blood system of 5 quarts through 6,000 miles of vessels. That is a quarter of the distance between the moon and the earth. Okay, so this is a computational challenge to look at. And this is happening in our cardiovascular system. Okay? Because organs cannot survive without blood. From the blood, you extract oxygen. And you send in carbon dioxide. And if this interaction did not occur, the organ dies, and then the person goes to the other side. Okay? So, like we said, we were looking at the evolution also of HPC at IMBBC. Okay? And then we're seeing here even the funding milestone and then the number of servers they have. Why are these important? They are in the literature. So, if, for example, you have a developmental process or evolution of your HPC and you fail to report it in terms of publication, nobody knows what is happening. And that is why it's good. Okay? So, even while doing this work, I became interested to report our own. Because I know that we don't even have so many information as to various HPCs, what they are using it for. Very few literature in that domain. So it's something that I developed interest to study our own, because if you don't make it public, nobody can even know that you have such facility to be able to use it. From here, I'm able to study these people's facility. This is in Greece. And this is their system. They call their system Zoba. And I could easily understand the structure. Okay? From there, you can even have idea to also improve your own and then get costs of it. Or even funding. Okay? You can see the bioservers. The bioserver, the cluster, this is the arrangement, and then this is the progress. They were having 16 CPU cores with 2 terabytes. That is what they started with, 2009. They grew 1 year after, 96 CPUs, 12 terabyte storage. Okay? That is the memory and then the processor. Okay? They grew up to this point in 2015. And here they are, 2021. They now currently have 120 CPUs and then 1,000 terabytes. Okay, so we can monitor our growth rate and be able to know where we have started, because it's also not good for you not to have a recording system for you to know where you are or where you have started, where you started from. Okay? So that is, for that, exactly what I just said is what I just have here. We can go to the next one, but it's more or less on the storage. This is how the arrangement of the nodes look like. And then these are the filing systems. Okay? For the system at Greece. Software optimization for parallel execution. This is quite important. Okay? How are you going to optimize the software? Okay? Implicit or explicit parallelization in modern multi-core system softwares are the software threads. So how are you going to program the threads such that you are able to use the multiprocessor system that is made available to you by the use of OpenMP API? That's exactly what I talked about before when I said it is not only the hardware that you are going to focus. You are going to find a way also to optimize the software. And that is why later on you are going to be studying things relating to containerization, Dockers, how do you Kubernetes and the likes. Okay? How are you going to use some of your software skills to be able to achieve your goal? Okay? And that is what it's all about. How are you going to achieve parallelism at the end of the day, such that you are not all the processors are engaged? Okay? I lecture performance evaluation as well. Okay, so all the time, each time we are interested in the speed of computation, and then we are also interested in the memory space. Okay, so, and that is what we are also interested in this case. So anytime you are talking about computing, that's exactly the case. Okay, so computational resources for the workshop. This one is just mentioning, trying to itemize the other areas you can apply those HPCs, microbial diversity, genomes and metagenomics, genomics in biodiversity, next generation sequencing, and the likes. Next. Actually, they themselves, they were assessed based on the workshops. So even when we're having workshops like this, we're supposed to have data sets. I'm now giving a task to the host so that we make an arrangement to be able to have a way to be able to measure even our activities here. And then publish it, report it. Okay? We should be able to at the end of the day, because that's exactly what these people have done. Okay? But what you need to understand is that this arrangement can take more than their own arrangement took more than 200 softwares that are containerized. And then they need environmental variables or environmental models to be able to work differently. So no matter any tool that you want, you are able to work on it without interference, without interaction, and the likes. Okay? So I've been talking about containers, and you'll be dealing more on it, and that is more or less the software part. And that tells you that you don't need to be talking about only the processor, even if you have it. And we also have to look at this side, okay? Yes. Yeah. How are we connected to cloud computing in the face of HPC, high performance computing? High performance computing, is it the same thing as cloud computing? That's a question. Somebody will ask you. To me, there are two different things. Okay? There are two different things because this is a technique to achieve a high performance computing concept. That's the way I see it. Why is it so? Cloud computing makes these resources available to you on demand. So if you are able to set up an environment such that you are able to use your browser to be able to receive such infrastructure on time, then you have achieved your goal. But you must ride on the back of the internet. It is always at the back of the internet. So it's like an added infrastructure that helps you to facilitate your ability to get a high performance computing concept achieved in your own setting. So you really may not be able to go too far without cloud computing as well. So that's exactly what you just have to understand. So cloud computing, simply speaking, is about sharing computing resources in an easy to customize and pay-per use. Okay? So we have the infrastructure. I don't want to belabor you because you'll be dealing with many of these, but I mean, hands-on now. You are now interacting with the system, and then you now know exactly what it's all about. But this is just how the layout, how the architecture looks like. For us, we want to see the architecture. We want to see how this thing is built. And then we're able to know, okay, how can we go into research? In your research, you might be able to be thinking, oh, why should this layer be here? Why not if we remove it and duplicate it with another thing that will make it to be fast? Those are innovations we're talking about, okay, when we're talking about research concept. And we expect that at the end of this workshop, many of you will be able to have that idea to move forward. Okay. I'll be very fast here because I know that many of you are familiar with this concept. We're talking of the back end and the front end. Okay, and you have the components of the cloud computing and the application, the client infrastructure, the service itself, okay, that you are getting. I'll be very fast because my time is fast spent. And then here you have the offers. You have software as a service. In this case, it's only the software that is available to you for use, and you are okay. That's what you need. And then you have platforms, some flexibility here. You have some flexibility, and then infrastructure, more flexibility is here, and the operating systems you can even be able to handle. And then you have also data as a service. Some people may be seeing this for the first time, but that's also innovation as to what other people that are into research are feeling. Okay? Yeah. Okay, next. So these are just components of cloud computing, management issue, security issue, internet issue. Those are the concerns. And then I want to also at this point mention the fact that in cloud computing, you are organizing computer resources and then you are providing them through the internet. But we have an arrangement, hybrid, where you have a combinations of any of these, community, where you have 2 or more people coming together, but they are close, and then you have one person, one organization, and then you have somebody public, when you have these services being given by a provider, and the provider is getting money from you, and then you are paying for the service. Those are the likes, the Google, the Amazon, Microsoft Azure, the big 3. Okay, you have many others, but we're also interested in organizations like this, EBI. For us in bioinformatics, we know them. Okay, so it's good that we know where to get our resource as well. Next. Are you there? Okay, we're winding down. Okay, Are you able to? It's not. Okay, the internet. Okay, I can use the system to complete. Yeah. Okay, so out of all these, we're interested, what are the skills that can help us? You know, you have all these skills, software engineering, algorithms and data structures, knowledge of operating systems, programming, paradigms, web development, human-computer interactions, database management, big data concepts, and then data analytics. Okay, these are not just programming languages, but they are skills that can help you. And when you look at, have you been using or engaging with HPCs? Some of us have been engaging with HPCs without knowing. That's interesting, because you have to ask yourself questions. Have you been able, what type of data have you been analyzing? What type of data have you been analyzing? What system did you use? Once you're able to answer such questions, then you are able to know exactly. This is one of our papers, and we tried to develop some clustering algorithms that has to do with quality validation of a high throughput data set. So normally when you are working with connections that like this, you need to be able to know exactly where to get the resource that you are working with. So the data is quite important, and then you need to know where the resource, because somebody will say, okay, what advantage? You must know where to get the resource. I did my postdoc in Warsaw, and even as we speak today, many years after, I can still connect into their server. I can still log into their server. My things are inside their server. My postdoc work, they are inside their server. Okay? They can't throw me out. Their emails, I'm still with it. Okay? They are as liberal as that anyway, because they have every data concerning me. They know where to get me. They know where I am. So I'm not running away also. Okay? So that's exactly what happens. But why am I saying this? Because you can access most of these facilities from wherever you are. These HPCs. So far you have the log on. Okay. And okay, I'm done. I started with this. It's imperative to know that HPC entails all the activities that you carry out to improve the system performance more than a standalone. Okay, this involves multi-core, memory issues, software programming, languages issues, containers and cloud computing concepts. At least if you are cloud computing, the connection, you saw when I lost connection here, you saw what happened, we didn't see anything, but thank God that the connection came back. So I think I'm done. That's acknowledgement. I want to thank the management for giving me this opportunity. I'm done. Normally, sometimes you want to make presentation, you give your students some task. Go and do this side, go and do that side, go and do that side. You are training them. I want to also congratulate all my students. These are all my postgraduate students. Some of them have graduated. These ones are already doctors with their PhDs, and then these ones, they have just graduated, but this is still with me. So I also appreciate their efforts in this presentation, and I want to thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's put our hands together for him once again. I'm sure that was an insightful session. So do we have questions? We can take a few questions right now for Professor Osamor. Questions, clarifications. Maybe there was something he said that wasn't very quite clear. Or you want him to, okay. All right. Can you come to the center a little bit?
Thank you for the insightful lecture, sir. So while you were presenting, sir, you mentioned FLOP as an evaluation metric for high-performance computers. So I want to know, how is it different from what we have in our general purpose computer, like ADS, the clock per second? Or is there any relationship between them? Are they different? Like, what's the relationship between them?
Okay, thank you. For our online participants, you can post your questions here online, and then I'll read them out for the presenter. Thank you.
Basically, they are not different because you still have flops also in our normal system. But what happens is the values attached. Okay? There are different parameters that you may use to measure the speed of different hardware devices. And for supercomputers, flops are more comfortable, and it is the same thing that you can use because you are talking of the number of cycles, okay? The number of clock times, CPU clock times that has taken place. So exactly, it's the same concept, but the range, this one is faster. That just makes the difference. If you look at the matrix, you find out that there are different metrics depending on 10 raised to the power of 5, 10 raised to the power of 12, 10 raised to the power of 15, and 18. So that goes a long way to classify them. Okay? Yeah.
Prof, thank you very much for your insightful lecture. Sir, I'm still having this a little shaking about clarification of cloud computing and HPC. You said they are different. So I've just tried to search. I've watched videos on HPC and cloud computing, at least little ones, not much. And the instructors or those who I learned from are all saying that they are the same thing because they carry sharing, they carry memory, but the only thing they want to talk about is cloud computing as a physical sharing, while cloud is virtual. So I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be confused, or you can give me a better clarification since I'm finding you physically here.
Okay, I can understand the question, and that is why before I passed that comment, I was so comfortable. But one thing in academics is that whenever you read something, you must try to take a position. What are you getting from what you have read? What do you want from what you have read? What do you feel is the judgment? I think it's more of that. My argument is that where there are, if you look at what I've presented, I am just saying that I am not looking at HPC from the side of the devices alone or from the side of the hardware. I'm also looking at it that the software is quite relevant because all of them work together to be able to make the system fast. If you can see all of them at the top 500 competing. If I can outdo you from the software side, I better walk through that part. Okay? So that's exactly the case. So I still maintain that, to me, they are not the same thing, but cloud computing is used to achieve the concept of HPC. Okay? Because I am considering HPC not cloud computing. You are just sharing resources. Okay? The purpose is to ensure that many people have access to a resource, but it must be through the browser. Without the internet, it can't work. Okay? But through HPC, it can work without the internet as well, because you can connect directly and then make your connections, and then everybody access through your local network. So it can work without the internet as well. Okay? I think that's what I would say. But it's a question of choice anyway. We always have situations like this in academics. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for that insightful presentation. At some point in your presentation, you made mention of something. You said some of us must have been using these HPC systems without us knowing. And I'm a data analyst, and I've worked on so many data, even big data. So I want to ask, SAS, which is statistical analysis software, I want to ask if it's actually an HPC system, and I've been using without me knowing.
Okay. SAS, as much as I know, is not specifically HPC. It's a software. Okay? It's a statistical package. You have the SPSS as well. You have SAP also, SAP. Okay? From what we have defined as HPC, it doesn't qualify, because SAS is not even, we are not talking of hardware devices now. So you are not talking of hardware device, it's mainly software. Okay? You are not considering the number of cores. I mean, yes, you can have a system and install SAS, but it's just a software. Can you see? I think there's a marked difference. We're talking of software, we're talking of hardware and more of hardware when you talk about HPC. Okay. Thank you.
Any more
very
questions or comments? Okay.
Okay, Prof, thank you so
Yeah,
much. I
thank
think
you.
that's actually very insightful
Yeah.
and very rich. So I also want to mention that the model for the workshop, if you also have your own opinion, you heard what he said, that in academics you can take a position. But you may also think that this is also my view with respect to the concept that is being spoken about. So feel free, please, to also add your voice. So the workshop is meant to be fully interactive. Is that okay? Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Ismail Idris Sinan. What I want to talk about is just about cloud computing. Looking at the storage, as the prof made mention, HPC have a centralized storage. But if you are looking at cloud computing, it has a siloed data. Different. One might be in US, another one might be in Nigeria or Spain or anywhere. When analyzing the data, if you're analyzing the data using cloud computing, the speed must not be as fast as that of the HPC that have a centralized database. This is what I want to add, that's all.
Okay, yes, I agree. Thank you for that analysis. I think that is what paper writing is all about. That is what research is all about, because you stay and then you are assessing the experiment that you have done, and then you are taking a position. Okay, that is what makes it a research anyway, because you can write something and they're asking you, what is the research in this? What is the research? You start looking for the research in a research paper that you thought you have written. Okay, so those are the things, those are what the reviewers look out for. If they don't have it, they will throw away your paper, and the paper will not even be sent for review. So that's important. Thank you for that. Like I said, I quite agree with you.
Okay. That being said, sir, regarding to what he said,
Yes.
and I want to know the difference between high performance computing, cloud computing, and data center. Data center.
Data center.
Okay.
Good. If you ask me, HPC can also be referred to as a data center. Yes. So if you had said, because I've seen it in write-ups where they say HPC data center. That is why I am saying what I'm saying. I stand to be corrected anyway, but that is what I know. Even when I was even doing this write-up, I think I saw it in so many places. So freshly, I'm talking of freshly, so it's not as if I've forgotten. But we know that information keep on changing. Even paradigms keep on changing due to more discovery. So we are in a very dynamic field. If, for example, I am coming here to teach you what I learned many years ago, I mean, I don't think I will even have any information to give. Okay, so every concepts keep on changing. But if you are saying HPC versus cloud versus data center, I want to agree with you. Even the one we are setting up, we've even been calling it data center. I don't know now whether yeah. Okay. Okay, somebody wants to contribute. Okay. Okay, I will give you. And but the cloud computing, I think that stands aside. Okay, so we can get your contribution too. So we can all be learning.
Okay, so a data center is more or less aggregation of a lot of computing resources, storage, network, provided in a particular location. You understand? So for example, where your web servers are located could be a data center somewhere. Amazon has data center, Google, Microsoft, etc. So essentially, a data center is just, it could be a co-location center where you have a combination of computing infrastructure, that is your processor, your memory, storage, and high-speed internet. High-performance computing is aggregation of compute nodes. You understand? So you could have a computer, a server with 64-core processor, a terabyte memory, and you cannot have like 10 of that, and you cluster them. You put them in a cluster. Then it forms high-performance computing. You also attach your storage and the network. What's the third one? So cloud computing is more or less, it also happens in a data center, for example. But cloud computing is more or less of the software infrastructure, you know, that sits on the hardware abstraction layer. So it's like you have a computer, a server, then you install your hypervisor on it, then you aggregate all those hypervisors together to form a cloud computing. Thank you.
Okay, that's also nice. That's a good one. But very, very close to HPC, the data center that he has explained. Very, very close. It's even difficult to get a thin layer. But these are concepts that are used in literature differently. Everybody using it according to how they feel.
Excuse me, sir. I want
Hello?
to direct the
Yes.
question to you. Yeah. Do you think yeah, I just want to know if data center can be achieved without the implementation or the use of HPC. Then don't you think that will affect the process on the performance of it?
No. Is are different. For example, here at Covenant University, we have our own local data center that powers the university. You understand? It comprises of course, switches, storage, and compute machine. So, but it's not necessarily HPC. You understand? The bioinformatics unit, I think the FEDGEN, they have their own HPC. But the university network is also powered from a data center. So essentially you can have a data center, but it's not serving the purpose of high performance computing.
So
You understand?
what if it's commercialized, like a community or a government data center?
It's because, essentially, if you want to set up high performance so, for example, at the context of Covenant University, the data center is used to power applications within the system. And those applications does not require parallel computation. You understand?
So in some cases where the data is big, we can see the application of HPC is very vital for data centers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can see now from the explanation you gave, I think is the processing capability that he is laying emphasis on for you to call it a HPC. Okay? But if you look at it from the other way around, you also find out that HPC can also play the role of being a data center at the same time. Do you understand? Okay, so that is what you can also see to justify the reason why some people will still tell you HPC is a data center or not. But you still see some people use it interchangeably. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just take a final question, which is from an online participant. What are some of the key factors that contribute to achieving high performance in computing, and how do they impact the overall performance of a system?
Yeah, what are the factors that you have
What
to...
factors contribute to achieving high performance in computing?
Yeah, what factors? Basically, what type of processors? Even when I was explaining, I got to a point where I was explaining the type of processor. When I was saying some people believe that AMD type of processor is not as good as Intel. Okay? So you talk about the type of processor arrangement that you have. You talk about the memory and okay, cases where you have the internet facility, like the cloud component, okay, how is it working, is it effective? Those are concerns. Those are issues that you need to look out for, and those affect the entire HPC.
All right, thank you very, very much, sir. Let's put our hands together for him once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I believe we are all on the FEDGEN, the WhatsApp group for this workshop. If you're not there, maybe we can sort that out immediately after this session. So we need you to fill the survey form that has been posted there. So that will just ensure that everybody gets that link so you can fill that survey. And so at this time, we'll end this session now, and then we'll proceed on the tea break, which is just downstairs here. And after that tea break, we'll come back for the next session, and that will be by 12 noon. So we have just a few